Coming up tonight on our news, COVID-19 cases climb to 3. The DPM details assistance packages for workers affected by the virus, plus a fetus found in a dumpster.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Vonique Tude. Topping news tonight, days after the Bahamas recorded its first case of the coronavirus, officials revealed today that 2 additional people have tested positive for COVID-19. The new cases come as government declared a state of emergency and tabled regulations aimed at stopping the deadly virus from spreading throughout the country. Jasmine Brown reports.
The PM revealed that those 2 new cases were diagnosed on Tuesday afternoon, as he also revealed why the Bahamas is now in a state of emergency.
It is my mission, my determination, my responsibility to save and to protect every life that I can during this crisis. And I can say with confidence, Mr. Speaker, that we will defeat this threat.
The increase in COVID-19 cases was announced by Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who told Parliament that the additional cases were discovered through the Ministry of Health's aggressive contact tracing investigations. Their investigations revealed that the additional patients live in the same household as the 61-year-old woman who tested positive for the virus on Sunday. Minnis said the investigations have also revealed the household members of the COVID-19 positive patient traveled to jurisdictions with known community transmission, including Canada, Trinidad, and Dubai.
These household contacts are being quarantined and samples taken for testing.
He added that healthcare providers are being tested to determine if they also contracted the virus. In addition to announcing the rise in novel coronavirus cases, the PM also tabled an emergency proclamation that revealed a public state of emergency was declared on Tuesday. The proclamation allows the government under the Emergency Powers Act to make regulations for securing public safety and the defense of the Bahamas, among other things. Also tabled on Wednesday was the Emergency Powers COVID-19 Regulations 2020. The regulations grant wide-ranging powers to the Prime Minister that will allow for, among other things, the detention of people infected with COVID-19 or those who travel to infected places, the possible prohibition of assembly of 2 or more people in any specific area, the requisition of any building, ship, or aircraft, a curfew, social distancing, and isolation orders, restricted access to specified areas, and the prohibition of publishing or reposting false stories. It provides for the Governor General to authorize international or regional military or police forces to serve as peace officers. Any person who contravenes the provisions commits an offense and is liable to a fine not exceeding $10,000, a term of imprisonment not exceeding 18 months, or both.
Some of these provisions may be invoked. Some may not. I understand the suffering and the pain that our country may experience with such provisions. But, Mr. Speaker, we have seen countries that try to balance the smooth running of their country and isolating their segments while allowing the spread to continue and find themselves in the worst situation or nightmare that they could have ever dreamt of.
He also expressed outrage over the fact that the proclamation and regulations were leaked to the public on Tuesday evening. He said the move caused unneeded public panic. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
The government has adopted a package of policy measures to deal with the tremendous economic impact of COVID-19. Finance Minister Peter Turnquest says it is already being felt at hotels whose occupancies have fallen, resulting in hotel workers being asked to take unpaid vacation leave. He says these measures are merely phase one of government's response to the pandemic. In addition to the nearly $5 million earmarked for government's healthcare response to the coronavirus, Finance Minister Peter Turnquest says officials will also allocate an additional $11 million to cover detection, isolation, treatment, and other mitigation measures. Then there's the $4 million that will be set aside for food assistance and social support for displaced workers directly impacted by the virus.
These food assistance vouchers of $100 every second week will be targeted primarily to persons within the hospitality industry who are facing reduced work weeks. This allocation will allow for up to 8 weeks of benefit payments, but may be adjusted according to need.
Additionally, government is allocating $10 million to provide for a temporary unemployment benefit to be administered through the National Insurance Board to self-employed persons working in the tourism industry.
Self-employed persons such as straw vendors, tour operators, jet ski operators do not ordinarily qualify for the National Insurance Unemployment Benefit as part of their benefit package. However, the government is making a special accommodations for those self-employed individuals in the tourism industry, given the unprecedented COVID-19 impact upon that industry in particular. For persons in this category, the government will offer a sponsored unemployment assistance of $200 per week for up to 8 weeks.
To qualify, the finance minister says those self-employed persons must be currently registered with NIB or they must register while applying for this benefit. His comments come one day after NIB announced it would be providing sickness benefit for workers who are diagnosed with COVID-19 or are placed under quarantine, while workers who are temporarily laid off because of the virus would be entitled to the unemployment benefit. Turnquest says government also hopes to ease the financial burden on Bahamas Power and Light and water and sewage customers impacted by COVID-19.
The government is also directing both water and sewage and BPL to defer payment of bills where necessary for an initial period of 3 months for residential customers who are diagnosed with the virus or who are in quarantine or have been laid off.
Government has also committed $20 million in short-term loan support to Bahamian small businesses impacted by the coronavirus.
Eligibility would include confirming that businesses have been in existence for over 1 year, a commitment to retain most of existing staff complement, and a plan to utilize the proceeds of the loan to ensure business continuity.
Minister of Health Dr. Dwayne Sands warned today that more cases of coronavirus would be confirmed in the Bahamas in the coming days. He held a news conference this afternoon.
We can expect an increasing number of cases within the coming days, and we are preparing for that eventuality as and when it occurs. However, it does not need to happen in the manner that our neighbors in other countries have experienced. So together, ministries, agencies, departments, businesses, communities, corporations, and each and every one of us in the general public can achieve a flat line or tapering off of coronavirus infections.
Sands explained who will be tested for the virus.
At this time, the ministry will test persons who are COVID-19 suspected cases or close contacts of confirmed cases.
The total economic impact of the coronavirus could be as high as $1 billion, according to the finance minister. Turnquest told Parliament today that impact could be as low as $258 million over the next 4 months. However, the government is inclined to focus on the high impact scenario,
which assumes 100% loss of cruise visitors and 80% of stopover visitors. In fact, recent developments in the industry would suggest a tilting of the possible actual outcome to this extreme scenario. which could result in a total economic loss, including additional public sector spending requirements of as much as $1 billion.
Turnquist said the direct hit on government revenue is placed at an aggregated $108 million. That's $48 million for direct border taxes paid by visitors and a total of $60 million for potential VAT and imports duty losses. Meanwhile, he said the expenditure requirements could reach $49 million. However, Turnquist vowed government would not borrow additional money.
Should it become necessary, the government would consider among its funding support options accessing the International Monetary Fund non-conditional rapid credit facility, which current eligibility placed at a maximum of $200 million. Simply put, we have no plans to request additional borrowing at this time.
Meanwhile, the health minister announced in Parliament today that the Bahamas now has 750 COVID-19 test kits. Over the weekend, health officials said the ministry had about 100 on hand, but with the first confirmed case of the virus reported on Sunday, they were able to get more kits.
We have formalized plans to take services to the public in our communities. We have enhanced testing capacity, and we can confirm that we have an additional 750 test kits in country at this time, and we have ordered an additional 5,000 to 6,000.
And in other news, a fetus was found in a dumpster off Farrington Road this morning, according to police, who say the discovery was made by a sanitation worker shortly after 11 a.m. Officers were called to the dumpster on Sarah Robinson Road to investigate. They're now appealing to the mother of that unborn baby to come forward to receive medical and emotional assistance. And still to come on our news, the tourism minister warns there may be no tourists due to COVID-19, plus 4 murder suspects charged in court. Stay tuned. You're watching our news. Welcome back. Bahamians must face the grim reality that we may have no tourists, according to Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar, who warned the ports could be deserted, hotel rooms could be vacant, and the streets could be empty due to the rapid spread of the coronavirus. Berthany McDermott has that angle.
The simple yet inconceivable reality we all need to grasp is that there will be no tourists.
That's the grim forecast from Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar, who warns that the country is facing an economic calamity that will surpass Hurricane Dorian. With the hotel industry already feeling the blow from the COVID-19 pandemic, de Aguilar stressed that no one is prepared for what the next few months will look like.
Hotels will be vacant, ports will be deserted, streets will be empty. The lifeblood of our country will be devoid of the many millions of foreign visitors that are so economically impactful in our everyday lives. We are facing an economic calamity that will almost certainly exceed that of Hurricane Dorian, the most powerful hurricane to ever strike the Bahamas.
De Aguilar added that the extent to which this crisis will have on both the tourism industry and the national economy depends on 2 key factors. The first is the rate of the domestic outbreak, which he noted Bahamians can control by exercising proper hygiene measures. The other is the external shock.
As countries continue to manage their own outbreaks by closing borders, imposing curfews and quarantines, and canceling events, demand for travel becomes almost non-existent. Oxford Tourism, a subsidiary of Oxford Economics, the world-renowned forecasting and analytics firm, notes that just 5 short weeks ago, China boasted the world's 3rd largest international aviation market. Today, it ranks 25th, with nearly 2/3 of all travel to and from the region canceled for the foreseeable future.
U.S. cruise lines have halted business for 30 days. Every month, cruise ships remain in port, he says, results in 450,000 foreign visitors not coming to our shores. Diagler, however, remains optimistic that over the long term, the tourism industry will bounce back.
Yes, the situation will get worse over the next 2 to 3 months, but one thing I've come to realize in my 3 short years in this job is that the tourism industry in the Bahamas is incredibly resilient, always bouncing back better and stronger, no matter what calamity or crisis is thrown its way.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Following the closure of schools across the country, questions arose over the impact this would have on students scheduled to take national examinations like the BGCSEs and BJCs in just a few weeks. Education Minister Jeff Lloyd said officials have been in discussions with the Cambridge Examination Board about the possible extension of those exams.
This is now being finalized, and I invite all persons to please pay very close attention to future announcements that will come forth in just a matter of days.
Lloyd also announced plans to assist hundreds of students who stand the risk of going hungry during school closures. He said the ministry will implement a meal voucher plan.
This is an evolving circumstance. Therefore, as this country is now braced to guard against the spread of this illness in our community, it is imperative that every member of the Ministry of Education's family, indeed, every resident and citizen of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, realize the vital role that we all play in its containment.
4 people were charged in the magistrate's court today in connection with recent murders. 32-year-old Evanette Phillips, seen in the blue plaid shirt, was charged with the March 13th murder of Cynthia Wilson. According to police, 2 females were outside a home on Lazaretto Road when they were approached by 3 men. One of them was armed and opened fire on the women, killing Wilson. Meanwhile, 31-year-old Luxon Sharit, seen in the gray hoodie, was charged with the February 29th murder of Shantia McKinsey. Police say a woman was standing outside a nightclub on Market Street around 1 a.m. when a gunman shot her multiple times. Also appearing in court was 18-year-old Philip Murphy in the mint green shirt and 25-year-old Joey Julasong in the wheelchair. They were charged with the March 8th murder of Edward Charles, who was shot and killed on Lazaretto Road. Attorney Jomo Campbell requested that both men be placed in the prison sick bay as Murphy has a pre-existing heart condition and is prone to fainting, while Julasong is suffering from multiple injuries, including a broken wrist, arm, and skull fracture after falling from a roof while at work. None of those suspects were required to enter a plea. They were all denied bail and remanded to prison. When Our News comes back from the break, the police chief outlines safety measures being taken by officers. Plus, the force observes the changing of the guard. Stay tuned. Police Commissioner Anthony Ferguson says officers are prepared amid heightened concern over the spread of the novel coronavirus. According to Ferguson, a plan has been submitted to the Minister of National Security and new policies have been implemented based on advice from health officials.
We have distributed all of the policies that we have that is placed directly in the hands of the acting Deputy Commissioner, who has circulated throughout the force. And next week, thereabout, we're supposed to have somebody from the surveillance unit of Ministry of Health being invited to come in and actually talk to our officers to make sure that we remain safe. You know, we are a frontline group of men and women, and so it is very, very important that we understand and get a full appreciation for how to protect ourselves in order to serve the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Officers on the Family Islands have also been made aware of those policies, according to Ferguson, who also had some advice for the public.
The Ministry of Health is in the lead in this whole thing, and they have issued various guidelines, various tips, and I would only say that Bahamians ought to listen to the experts and follow their lead, as it is with the police.
And the traditional changing of the guard ceremony took place at police headquarters this morning.
All sentry, report your post. Good morning, Mom. WPC 4221 Johnson reporting the police quarter guard. The commissioners in office, all government properties are accounted for, and all duties appear to be correct at an order, Mom.
No, sentry. Your duties are as follows. Your beat extends from the eastern gate to the western end of the quarter guard building. You are responsible for all government properties within your camp.
The changing of the guard ceremony usually takes place every 3 months. The guard is posted at the entrance gate of police headquarters and is responsible for the security of the police commissioner and fellow officers. And still to come, how UB's soccer team is being impacted by COVID-19. Stay tuned. And finally, tonight in news, college athletics also being affected here at home as the UB Mingoes try to adjust. Their men's soccer team, the last to see action. Marcellus Hall has that.
Well, things haven't come to a complete stop. Just recently, Bahamas Football Association did have some matches, and well, the UB Mingoes, they took to the field, going up against one of the local teams here, trying to get themselves a win, playing the Western Warriors Gladiators. The Mingoes found themselves in dire straits. They would score their only goal in the 88th minute of the match. Western Warriors Gladiators, they had their way with this team pretty much. Belinsky Cousins scored for the Mingoes in the 88th minute, but that would literally be too little too late. Western Warriors scored 8 times before the Mingoes were able to score that particular goal. Final score of the match, Gladiators 8, Mingoes 1. Gladiators now with a 2-2-1 record. The Mingoes stay winless. They're 0-5.
Well, we didn't have one of our key defenders today, Oakland, Duncombe. He didn't show up today, but next time we'll get him next time. Our side of the day, we didn't come up with enough confidence to win the game. Lack of fitness, but we did our best so that we could hang it on to the final round.
So it seems while this is going on, the break may not be a bad thing for the Mingoes. They're hoping for things to turn around once play resumes once again. For our news, I'm Marcellus Hall.
And thanks for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Vaughnie Tude. Stay tuned. The new Story Boy Show is up next. Have a good night, everybody.